People of Reddit with security cameras, what is the creepiest thing you've caught on video? My stepdad woke up one morning and found a bucket of fried chicken in our driveway. For some reason he didn't think it was odd at all. I did and checked our camera recordings. Ends up being this lady walked up to my car at like 3 a.m. with a bucket. She was obviously homeless and probably on drugs. When the camera light turned on, she yelled, "I brought you some chicken," and left the bucket on the ground by my car. To this day I wonder what was up with the chicken lady. A neighbor walking by, which he does every day, and realizing the cameras were being installed, CCTV van, etc. Next day, on his walk by, he stands still, and just looks at the camera. Could understand him looking for a few seconds to see how they were wired, what brand, what they might be able to see, etc. But he stood there, just looking at a single camera, for about 14 minutes. My old apartment had incredibly unprofessional repair staff. I'd call them because my AC would be out, and they'd come over while I was at work, rather than at the agreed upon time while I was home, and they'd use my bathroom, poke around through my stuff, type on my keyboard, fuck around with my pets, etc. Needless to say, I was pretty livid. I set up a camera and caught them, then took the footage to the front office. I got a personal call from the owner of the apartment complex to apologize, and almost the entire repair staff got fired. My ex-wife sneaking up to the front door and peeking in the window. At 10 p.m. one night. Right after divorce was final. Probably a full 4 minutes worth, ordered 3 more cameras from Amazon that night. At work, the IT guy reviews our restaurant's security videos. One day he calls me and tells me to open his email to me and to close my office door. The first part of the video shows the restaurant manager opening up the restaurant after hours, 1 a.m., to let a woman in. Next clip, they are the manager's office having sex. Next clip shows them drinking liquor straight out the bottles. Then they start arguing and the manager drags the woman down the stairs and throws her out of the restaurant. OMG. The manager was obviously fired. The woman later claimed the manager raped her. It turned over unredacted and unedited to the police and don't recall if the rape charges against manager were upheld. Guy walked up to my front windows, put his ear against it, then walked away. I see him around the neighborhood sometimes, not sure what his deal is, but he hasn't come to my place again so far. Not a security camera but a trail cam on my uncle's property. We just saw a bear kill and eat a deer. It started out being slightly creepy, but it ended up being really funny. I have external cameras with night vision all around my house. My family and I were on vacation several time zones west of our house. One night, right before I was about to go to bed, I got an alert and logged in to see what was going on. I saw a car pull into my driveway and 4 people get out, acting all sneaky and stealthy. It was well past midnight at my house, and this didn't look good. I called my wife and kids in to watch it. I was preparing to call the police in my hometown. We saw them all sneak away and toilet paper a neighbor's house. They then ran back to their car in my driveway and sped off. My family and I laughed so hard. It was a highlight of that vacation. My gate cam caught a pair of skunks having dirty skunk sex at like 2 a.m. I'm a property manager, and one of the communities worked at had cameras installed. One night, person in all black clothes with their hood up gets let in by a resident. Black clothes goes to elevator, goes up to a specific floor, then to a specific door, and knocks. Resident opens the door, black clothes produces a pistol, and bang shoots him the face, and walks off. Back on elevator, out the same door, never looked up. Creepy AF. They have cameras in my house for my dogs that alert me when they bark and I can send them treats, etc. It basically functions as a security camera. Anyways, we went on a vacation and I warned our dog sitter in advance that we have cameras in common areas of the first floor of our home. One day during my trip, at 3 a.m., I review my dog footage because I get an alert on my phone that my dogs are barking like crazy. I normally wouldn't creep, but I was concerned that maybe there was a fire or break-in, or the woman fell, etc. The footage shows the dog sitter, a 70-year-old lady, running around the house swearing at my dogs, in underwear only. I was looking for a lost calf out in the woods one night and found a game camera I didn't recognize on the property. It got a few pictures of me. It was my boss's friend and she had forgotten to tell me. My boss had a good laugh when her friend checked his camera and nervously told her there was a guy with a shaggy beard and a handgun wandering around the woods in the middle of the night. We have wise cameras with motion detection. Every now and again I'll get an activity tagged motion or person and it's just a 5-second clip of absolutely nothing. Especially weird on a still night. Breaking the rules, but I caught something that ended up being surprisingly wholesome. I have a brick house, and the mailbox is bolted to it. Somehow one side managed to come loose, so it had been dangling for a couple of weeks since I just didn't have a chance to get to the hardware store. I get home from work one day and it was bolted back properly. I checked to see if there was a note or anything, but nope. On the one hand, I was really grateful, but on the other, was kind of spooked / wondering if I was totally losing it and maybe it had never come loose after all. Also, I've kind of half kidding half serious thought my house was haunted, so this definitely added to that feeling. A couple days later I remembered I have cameras and could check to see if they caught anything. Turns out an older guy with a tool belt just casually walked up, fixed my mailbox, and left. He wasn't there for more than 3 or 4 minutes. Eventually I was able to piece together that one of my neighbors was having some roofing work done and this was one of the workers. I guess he had just seen my mailbox dangling for a few days and decided since I wasn't making any moves to fix it, he would. I hadn't been living there for that long, and it really warmed my heart to know someone would go out of their way to perform a simple good deed for a stranger. Wasn't a security cam, but this one time my roommates set up a web camera in the living room which was motion activated because we had 4 dogs in the house and at least one of them was shitting on the carpet. 3 of the dogs were pretty average on intelligence but one of them was too smart for her own good. So we all cruise out and do our thing, and upon returning we check the carpet and there is what appears to be a little chocolate smudge on the carpet. Of course we were all out together so we knew no one would have made a poor attempt to clean up any accidents, so naturally we checked the video, and the culprit ended up being the smart dog. She does her business, and right as she's about to walk away she stops, turns her head and looks directly at the camera, and after a moment of realization, she turns her ass around and gobbles up her shit to remove the evidence. I work for a security company, a murderer walking past our office with a knife in his pocket. He used that knife to slaughter an old woman in a church a few hours later. Oh yeah, and he had just asked one of our staff for walking directions to the nearest church. I've got cameras downstairs that cover my living room, kitchen, and front door, and one in my second closet where I have 2 large gun safes. Maintenance came in to clean and test the smoke detectors and change the AC filter. One of them opened the gun closet and started poking around at the keyboards on my safes. He tells the other guy, "TM gonna figure out this code one day." The other guy was in my nightstand commenting on the condoms, lube, and other assorted coital aids. I simply called the police and met them here. The guy in my nightstand was wearing one of my watches. They both went to jail. So we have 2 cameras at back of my house. 3 people show up with horse masks on and spent probably 15 minutes pretending to be horses. Then left a small bag of meat with flowers in it. My wife was so freaked she didn't sleep for a week. I guess this isn't the creepiest thing, it was just hella weird. I own a house that has poles to hold up the roof of my patio and I went to check my camera one day and I saw these 5 teenagers, 2 girls and 3 boys, doing crap on the poles and I end up seeing the 2 girls dancing on the one to the far left at the front and the 3 guys throwing money. I didn't believe and thought my husband had messed with my cameras as a joke again. He did it for April Fools. I go outside on my porch and take a good look around and I found a $20 bill. I mean, I'm not complaining, I made $20. Worked in one of the oldest buildings in my college town. Was once a Wild West saloon where 2 people were documented to be killed in a shootout when the state was still a territory. In the 20s it served as someone's house, where the youngest daughter was documented to have died in childhood. When I got hired on, even the owners talked about it being haunted. I've never truly seen a ghost or had an encounter, but something about the building, particularly the office to the back and definitely the dirt basement, did not feel right to me at all. Not malevolent, but always off. My first closing shift after I get promoted to key holder, I'm also helping a new girl who has really taken the whole ghost spiel she got a few days prior to heart. This particular store ranged from small little treasures that were almost too easy not to steal, to a few items that cost 5x the going rate for tuition at the local college. Naturally, the owners had 15 cameras installed that played on a live feed in the office and in the storefront for customers to see to know they weren't being slick. I'm counting the drawer and she's anxiously watching the security camera, just waiting to see something crazy. I'm putting the final totals into a calculator and she screams. She calls me over to the camera feed, and there it is on the top right feed. Very clearly there is what looks like a figure in a white, boxy nightgown type dress. We are both near pissing our pants, but we can't leave. There's still a bunch of stuff to get done and the owners and the opener tomorrow will be pissed if we just ditch the last half of the closing responsibilities on account of a ghost. We watch it, stunned as it appears to sway. Suddenly, a huge spider obscures the view of the figure. We, two grown women, have been near tears for what feels like ages because we've been watching a fucking spider web that the AC blew into view of the camera. Not creepy but actually funny. About a month ago at 2 a.m., a hedgehog came and rolled around our yard destroying all the green grass in front of my porch. I installed a ring cam and lock on my gate as couriers and postmen kept leaving it open and my dogs would run down the street. Nothing too out of the ordinary for the first year. I just bought a solar panel for it as Elle always would forget to charge it, installed it, and let the solar panel charge up the camera from flat to see how much charge it would give the camera. Worked like a charm, and in the low amount of sunlight it got in the morning during winter was more than enough to keep the camera going non-stop. Literally 2 days later I get home from work and my camera is missing, ripped off the post and solar panel destroyed. Check the footage. Someone came up and ripped it from the post, put it in their pocket and walked off with it. However, the person that stole it was an ex-work colleague who looked directly into the camera and then stole it. Previous footage shows his car driving past the house and parking down the road. Haven't worked with the guy for over 2 years and I never told him where I lived. Anyway, now that guy has a criminal charge against him and Ilva got cameras and floodlights absolutely everywhere around my house. Guy living inside of one of the broken down cars out by the barn at my parents' house during the winter. We lived about 10 miles out from the closest town that has anything to offer and from there many miles to any other town. He was likely a drifter or homeless and we honestly didn't do anything about it. Just kept mindful that he was there during the nights in case something shady ever went down, but nothing ever did. I think he really just needed somewhere to sleep that wasn't outside. It was surely still freezing cold, but better than the alternative. He left and never returned after winter passed. When it had been a few weeks since we saw him on the cameras at night, we went and looked inside of the car, so many empty cans of beanie weenies, haha. I hope he managed to find his way onto another area that didn't turn him away or was able to get himself into a job and a real home. A neighbor came up and pressed his face into our door to look inside. I am a young woman and disabled, and was home alone at the time. His face print was still there when I looked. Fucking creep. Had a Ring doorbell when I lived in South Florida. Kept getting motion notifications one afternoon but couldn't see anything. Finally saw what it was, a 6-foot gator chilling out in the entranceway. Thankfully he left before I got home. Bit of backstory: I rent the upper floor of my best friend's house, so we see each other quite often and I use the kitchen and the washer and stuff like that. One day while we were at uni someone broke into the place. Nothing was stolen but the house was a disaster. So I checked the footage of the camera we have out front, see the guy go in. Don't see him come out. Called the police. Checked the entire house. Nowhere to be seen. I don't have neighbors to add to the strangeness of the situation. Well, turns up the guy was on the fucking roof. He was up there a good week before we realized anything. He is now facing trail. In my town there was a fairly popular restaurant that everyone went to all the time. Everyone loved the place. The owner was this short, adorable, lovable guy that everyone liked. A few years ago, someone noticed something off in the bathroom. Upon investigation they found a camera set up in the bathroom. Apparently the owner had been videoing people doing their business for years and was even found to be a part of a child porn trafficking ring on the deep web. Needless to say, our small town was shocked. Everyone used that bathroom at one point or another. This is almost one of the reasons I don't want a security camera. Basically nothing ever happens in my neighborhood. I don't want to have to accidentally record some demon walking on all fours with their joints going the wrong way just to see if the same guy dropped off my UPS package as every other day. I installed some security cameras at my place after my neighbor told me they thought they've been hearing someone walking around my yard at night. I scanned through the footage the very next morning and saw a guy come into frame wearing only boxers and laced-up combat boots. He stood by my bedroom window, stared in for about 45 minutes, then walked back out of frame. I was able to get a pretty good look at his face, and that's when I realized that I've been fucking sleepwalking. I have no idea how long it's been going on or where the fuck else I've been at night, and that fucking terrified me. I honestly think I might have preferred seeing an actual intruder. Okay, so true story, my building doesn't have cameras in the hallways, so I decided to buy Ring camera. A few hours after installing, someone walks up to one of my neighbor's doors. Knocks on the door, no one answers, they then shove a piece of paper under the door and sets the piece of paper on fire, then takes off running. I came in to open the retail store one morning. Lights were on. Radio was on, and the TV was on. There were beer cans in the bathroom trash and put out smokes on the floor. I went back to watch the security tapes, and the manager brought a woman in at midnight and they smoked and drank and then went into the bathroom together and came back out with less clothes on. Needless to say, the manager didn't have a job by noon that day. Not me, but my mum. We're renting out this barn house from this couple who are living in Canada for a few years. They have CCTV in the office. One day, she saw a creepy old man who she never met before waving at her through the CCTV. She eventually found out he knew the people we were renting the house from and didn't realize they moved to Canada, but we were spooked for a while. My parents live just outside a town of about 400 people, so fairly remote. One morning they woke up and saw an alert from their motion-activated camera that is placed to see the area outside their bedroom. I should mention that their bedroom has a sliding glass door with a screen door that they sometimes leave open on hot nights. The camera footage shows a cougar walk up and stop about 10 feet from that sliding glass door. And the worst part is the footage cuts off before the cougar leaves. Crappy cameras.